Hello everyone, my name is Ripley and today we are trying out Symtherin's land challenge, which if I understand this correctly, it's kinda supposed to be kinda like, or at least reminds me of like a shell challenge, but instead of it being a shell, like a shell with an exterior that you can change, it's the landscaping that you can't change. You get some landscaping and you kinda have to try to build with it and build around it to kind of get something. And so this land challenge had this kind of big hill, which I immediately thought that, well, that would probably be the best place to have the house. So I kind of put the house on stilts. I kind of looked at the hashtag, looked at what other people have done with it, and I don't know if anyone else had done it on stilts, but for me that was like my immediate like, of course it's gonna be on stilts. I guess that it's kind of like when you build on water, and I kind of had that idea that maybe I have more space for the house if I put it on stilts, and then it's kind of supported by the landscaping. And then we have some dipping areas as well in the landscaping, which I thought was perfect for water. So we have some water, we have a lot of landscaping. I did really just clutter this entire space with the landscaping. We have a lot of plants and I actually really enjoyed doing the landscaping. But for the house, I wasn't really sure what I was gonna do. I kind of knew that I wanted to do like a cottage, and when I looked at the slot and I saw that it was like a 30 by 20, I was like, where can I build this? And then I eventually ended up in Food and Bakery, which was then like, yeah, then I'm gonna do a cottage. And I didn't really know the shape of it, so I just kind of put down some walls and kind of messed around with the roofing, but I really liked the end result. It was a while when I was like, oh, this house is not turning out great, but I think that after messing around with it for a bit, I really like how it turned out. For the interior, I did do, it's a 2-bedroom home. It's quite small actually, and the spaces are kind of weird, or like the living area is like a 3 by 6, 3 by, what could it be? It's like 3 to 2, so it's like 6 by or 3 by 7, which is a really weird space to do like a living room. So I didn't plan the interior, or I didn't plan the floor plan, which is an issue that I've had for other builds as well, that I've just done like a shell, and then once I moved on to do the interior, I just have a really weird floor plan. But then it actually ended up being kind of functional, or it is totally functional, but the floor plan is maybe not what we normally do. So we have downstairs, we have the kitchen, dining, and living area slash like a study that's the same space as the living area. And then upstairs we have the only bathroom in the house, a secondary bedroom, like a kid's bedroom, which I kind of imagine is kind of like a kid that's kind of a tween, I guess. They're not quite a teenager yet, but they're quite older. They're not like a young kid, so like a tween. And then we have the master bedroom, which I actually really enjoyed how that turned out. It kind of, this house is old, and it kind of looks a little bit older on the inside, except for like the kids room that has some more like modern, like mostly like modern like paintings and stuff, like making it feel like even though the house is old, we still live in the 21st century. And of course this house also has like a TV and a computer and that kind of stuff. We also have this balcony area in the back, which I really like. I only put out like a picnic table up there. I was thinking about maybe putting in like a barbecue, but we didn't really have that much space, so it's just like a picnic table for Sims to maybe eat outside during the summer, or you can turn it there into whatever. For the landscaping, of course, with it being like all bumpy and stuff, I needed to use the tool mode. I don't know if that was allowed. They didn't specify if the tool mode was allowed or not, so I ended up using it. And for doing this, like all this landscaping, I really needed the tool mode. And what I basically did is I used to kind of put out all or most of the one plant that I wanted, so you can see that some of the stuff is floating, but I did end up cutting out me using the tool mode a lot, because a lot of the time it's like you don't get it on the first try. You kind of have to raise it up or raise it down a little bit and change. Maybe it takes like 3 times sometimes for one object to sit just right. So I thought that I wouldn't let you guys sit through that. They could be quite boring, but don't worry, if you see something that's floating, I do bring it down to ground level even if you might not see it. And I actually really loved just cluttering this area up and just, you know, putting in a lot of landscaping, all of this. I don't think you see any of the ground when I'm done, except for where the pathway is. And so I was actually really happy with this. I think I took 2 hours to do all the landscaping, which is longer than it normally takes, but like I said, I was messing around a lot with the tool mode. And I think the landscaping is like super chill and super like therapeutic. Like you can just sit and do it for a long time and you don't really, it's not something that's super like stressful or like you have to have like a certain time limit or anything. You can just kind of sit and do whatever you want, and I don't think that if you do it right, then you never have like too much landscaping. Of course, it's a style or like a choice to have a very wild grown like landscaping, wild grown lot, but I think it ended up looking kind of exactly what I wanted it to be. And just trying to cover up all of this kind of like steep areas. Of course, where the dirt is where your sims can't walk because it's too steep, and the game creates this kind of like dirt wall when something is too steep, which is kind of like, it's kind of ugly. You kind of have, sometimes you can't really like paint over it, so you kind of have to cover it up. But like I said, I really did want to have the wild room look from the beginning, so that wasn't a problem for me. And as someone who used to hate doing the landscaping, this is definitely my favorite part of the build. The interior of the house I was a little frustrated with, but I think that came together as well. But I think that the place where this build shines is the outside, and I think for this being like a landscaping kind of challenge, I think that the outside is where it's supposed to shine. Maybe, of course, the house is also supposed to look beautiful, but I think that the landscaping is really where I wanted this build to shine, which is also why I didn't include me doing the interior in the video, mainly because the video got too long and I was like, I didn't want to make like a 25-30 minute video, so I thought, well, we just do the landscaping, since in my opinion, this is like the main part of the challenge, how you work with the landscaping to make a build, and do the other like landscaping, do the bushes and the trees and all that stuff. It will also include the exterior, because of course building the house is also part of trying to work around the landscaping, try to figure out where your sims will live, the size of the house, and how to kind of incorporate the rest of the lot to become something functional and beautiful and just something really fun for your sims. For the outside, I didn't do too much in terms of like activities. It's kind of hard when you have a bumpy lot but you don't have anything that's flat, because the objects don't wanna stay flat. You would have to use the tool mode to sink them down so they appear flat, or so they appear like they're on the ground even though they're technically floating. But so I used to have like a park bench outside, and we have this decorational well that came with get together, and then we have like a bird bath and like your normal like mailbox and trash can and that kind of stuff. So we don't really have any functional stuff outside in terms of like activities, but like I said, it's really difficult to do that with a lot that is not flat at all. But I really loved this like where the land comes up, like these like hills, very like steep hills, and how you could like build the landscaping up on it. I think it looks really fun and interesting and kind of like fairy tale-esque almost, with these kind of like small hills of landscaping, and that really inspired me of how I can do landscaping in the future, because I don't really mess around with the terrain tool a lot, because it is so like it doesn't really work properly with everything being floating and everything like that. But with this, I'm really happy that I did the challenge, because it really inspired me to do these hills for landscaping and only for landscaping, and then you could keep the rest of the land somewhat flat for your sims to do activities and have this kind of outdoor decorations and that kind of stuff. But for where you want some more like extra detail for landscaping, you can raise the terrain up like that, and this really inspired me to do that in the future, and that's nothing that I would have thought of myself. So I was really happy with that. And now I'm just fitting in the finishing touches of the landscaping, which of course would be the trees. I think all those trees are from Cottage Living, and I kind of tried to keep the landscaping to Cottage Living, but then on the interior I kind of added a few more packs. And then I put down some stones for where you could kind of see more of the water around that kind of like landscaping hill thing that's there. And just kind of decorating the water, just putting in some like fish and that kind of stuff. Some lily pads, just the final touches of the landscaping. And then lastly just putting in some things on the exterior of the house. I did try to do this before I started landscaping, but I didn't like how it looked. And I think that especially with these like wisterias that came with Cottage Living, I really didn't like them when they first came out. Like when we first got Cottage Living, I think I talked about a lot in my videos how I didn't like them, how I didn't really find a way to use them. But now, and something that I started to do more now, is kind of mix the wisterias with some more vines from like different packs. We have some get together vines here as well as some Cottage Living vines, and just kind of climbing plants on the walls, just to mix them up and make it look more natural, I think, than to use the wisterias. So I'm really happy with how this ended up looking, and I think with a lot that is so overgrown with landscaping and so filled with landscaping, I think it would make sense that some of that landscaping would have like climbed up the pillars and just kind of attach themselves to the house. And I think that will make sense, and I think it looks really nice, and it looks really like part of the forest, I guess. And then I did this flower wall in front of where you go into the house. I thought it looks really nice, and it's kind of like almost like a privacy screen kind of thing, even though you are in the middle of nowhere and you don't really have any neighbors out here. I just thought it looks really nice. And then I put a picnic basket on the park bench here, just as a nice little decoration. But with that said, we are just about to jump into the tour, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all very soon. Ripley out.